Hi everybody. I wanted to try to see if I could animate a SVG circle using the Zurb Foundation slider. And what I thought would work was putting KnockoutJS as the middle component to combine the Zurb slider and the SVG circle. So you can see right here on the website the Zurb slider on the very top, and as you increase slider, the SVG circle grows, and if you decrease the slider, it decreases the circle, and also the number of the slider comes up. And also I wanted to see if it went below 20 if the number would actually turn red, and it does. So I want to kind of share real quickly the code that I did and how KnockoutJS is combined between the SVG circle and the slider. Knockout for real quickly, Knockout is from the KnockoutJS.com site. The circle that I'm using, the SVG circle, is from snap.svg. I'm just using examples from it. And the slider is from the Zurb Foundation of range sliders, and I'm actually using this one. I'm not really customizing, I'm just kind of using it. So this is the information that you can get to customize or learn more about these objects. Okay, so here is the code that I made, that I created. This can be a simple HTML file, but I work in .NET and I use the MVC framework. So if you are familiar with the MVC framework, you'll realize what this is. And also, if you're familiar with the Zurb Foundation way of coding, for instance, small 12 columns, then that should be familiar to you. But if not, you can always look it up. Anyhow, let's get to what I did in the project. You can see right here, this div is the slider itself. So Zurb Foundation, and you can get the code directly off their website. It says to correct the slider, you just need to go ahead and code that in there. And one of the options I wanted to do was I wanted to start at 1 and end at 50. And that's what I did. So the slider starts at 1 and ends at 50. The next div right here is actually and let me bring that around here. It's actually this part here, slider number is. So this right here just displays the number. So every time you move the slider, this number will change. And then the next div is actually the animated circle. And with the animated circle, I just pulled it from SnapSVG. So I took examples from it. I want to get more familiar with it, but I just haven't had much of the time, so I just grabbed the example. Okay, so to connect the SnapSVG circle and the Zurb slider, I use Knockout. So right here, obviously in this section, you've got to include the SnapSVG JavaScript file, and of course the Knockout file. You've got to create that or bring that in. And then what I did is I just started creating variables that I needed. And on this part right here, I just took this straight from the SnapSVG site on how to initiate the SVG object. This right here creates the circle. There's no mystery to this. It's something you can get right off their website. And then right here, the next function actually animates that circle. Alright, so nothing new here. Big circle is actually, I went ahead and declared big circle to create the circle, and that's the object I use. And you can see right here, all I'm doing is animating it. And the next method right here is the data slider. Now this is actually from Zurb Foundation, and you can get that right here on how to, I'm sorry, you can get that, if I can find it, oh yeah, you can get that in getting and setting the value section. This is how you're going to get the value of that slider that is created right here. So in order to get the value of the slider, you're going to have to use this code to get it. Okay, so how did I connect Knockout? Real quickly, just like in KnockoutJS and other programs, you go ahead and create your view model, and then you create your observables. RT value is an observable, limit is an observable, and I have that actually hard-coded as 20. And then number it is also an observable. Now you'll notice that not only is it observables, but this value actually subscribes to this function. And what that does is every time this RT value changes, this function that's in here will get called and executed. So when the RT value is changed, Knockout says go ahead and subscribe to this function, go ahead and call this function. Okay, so in this case, every time RT value changes, circle animate right here will execute. Same here, whenever number it is changed, it's subscribed to circle animate, and that will change also. And let me look here. So I have an RT value, and it looks like number it was used for another section that I did before. So it looks like I have some duplicate code here. So this part right here should not be used. We'll just disregard that. Okay, so right here is where you declare and activate your Knockout. And you can see right here I create the object user it is now the new view model. And this is the way that Knockout can be accessed outside of this view model. So creating another instance, user it, you'll notice that right here user it's in this method, and user it is also in this one as well. So whenever the RT value changes, you can see right here, whenever this guy, he's going to call and he's going to get the results from the slider, and he's going to get that value. So when the user at RT value changes, and that changes because of the slider, it calls circle animate. Circle animate is right here, and it's going to animate the big circle that's created by the SnapSVG, and that value will be animated with a radius and of course the animation speed of 1000. And that's really all there is to it. So once again, this section right here is the slider right here. This section right here is the number, and this section right here is actually the SVG circle. And as you see, every time I raise it, the circle increases, and every time I decrease it, the circle decreases also. You'll also notice that when I get below 20, this actually turns red, and that's a simple thing with what Knockout can do. And that's actually right here. So obviously this slider number we'll get the text value, which is rtValue.style. And what this means is it's actually a logical expression that says if userit.rtValue, whatever the slider value is less than userit.limit. Remember, .limit was actually hard-coded as 20. Then if it's less than 20, make it red. If not, it's going to be black. So it's a real quick way of changing your CSS style real quickly using Knockout, and it's really powerful. I really like Knockout quite a bit. So using this code, you can easily connect the SnapSVG circle and Zurb slider to actually talk to each other using Knockout. Knockout is kind of the bridge and really the engine behind it that occurs. And as you can see, it works really great. No problems at all. Okay, just another Knockout.js trial. Thanks a lot.